You've heard this next sentence a lot the past 2 weeks. Election day is fast approaching. We've been going through local ballots, and perhaps the most interesting one of the bunch is in Big Spring. Jonathan Polasic has the full rundown of what people there will be voting on. Hi, Jonathan.
Yeah, Tatum, no elected officials this go around, but rather propositions. The city is working to update its charter. It hasn't been touched in nearly 50 years. You have a say in what goes in there, even the language used. A political catching up with the times, if you will. The Big Spring City Charter is out of date.
It was written in the 20s, long, well before me or you were alive. And it hasn't been revised since the 70s, which is before I was alive. It was just time. It was just time to make some meaningful changes and clarify some things.
One of the biggest items involves the inclusion of gender-neutral pronouns.
It's really adding everywhere councilman appears. It is either changing that to council person or council member, or adding the words and or councilwoman. So it's just updating language. I mean, women have been able to vote for close to 100 years now. We might as well be able to include them in our charter.
Another proposition would allow people to get more involved in what could go on a ballot, with Hughes using Lubbock as a recent example.
What happened in Lubbock the last election cycle when the city council refused to put the, I guess the equivalent of the heartbeat bill in the city, in the city code, and the citizens went out, they got enough signatures, they put it on the ballot. That's an initiative, and that's something that citizens of Big Spring could not do because it's not in our charter.
And something that Big Spring saw in August 2020, recall elections. There's a proposition that would lower the required number of signatures that would initiate a recall.
So we're dropping the requirements for the recall and making it easier, hopefully making it easier if the voters are unhappy with one of us to be able to get rid of us.
Now, Jonathan, for a charter that has not been touched in decades, I can only assume there's more than just those three main issues on this ballot.
Yeah, Tatum, there's actually a lot to go through, about maybe 20 or so plus. But there are other propositions, as I was saying, so let's go ahead and look at a few. They include, creating a charter review committee that looks at the charter every 4 years just to make sure that things are, up to date. Another thing is that the charter, one of the propositions will clarify how term limits for elected officials are applied. Term limits are set for 2-3 year terms. Then if you want to run for council again or a different position, you have to wait 6 years and then run again. And then another one of the propositions is in order to call a special meeting, that requirement will go down from having 3 councilors having to get together to call one to just 1. And again, the last day to early vote is tomorrow, and you can only do early voting for these propositions at the Howard County Courthouse. Tatum?